I'm J.R. Harrell, EVP of Product Operations and Enablement at Datasite, and it's so good to see you all here this morning. Hope you're having a great Teams experience. I know I am, thanks to the folks here at Atlassian. Really pleasure to work with you guys. Thank you so much for all you've done. So by way of context, here is a snapshot of my professional background. After high school, I joined the United States Army and I was a tank operator. And yeah, it's one of those tanks that you're probably thinking about with the big track that goes around it and shoots the big guns. And as a kid right out of high school, that was like really awesome to be part of that experience. Then after high school, I went to college at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication. And I was hired by IBM about a year before I ever graduated college. This was during the dot-com boom. I won't say bubble, I'll say dot-com boom. Some of you might have been there for that. That was quite the ride. And then I worked at IBM for a decade. I was a project manager for accounts like General Motors. We were one of the first automobile manufacturers to actually have a build it online capability, and we thought that was pretty cool at the time. But then one day there was a presentation that a lot of you will remember by Steve Jobs when he released the iPhone. And I saw this and I thought to myself, man, this is the future. So I took a year-long leave of absence or a sabbatical at IBM and taught myself user experience design. And I did that for the next roughly 15 years up until this year. I have spent the last 8 years at Datasite doing user experience design, but in February of this year, I switched to my current position that's led me here to be on stage and talking with all of you guys here in the audience, which is product operations. I'm the executive vice president of product operations at Datasite. And just at a really high level, Datasite, we create virtual data rooms. So let's say, for example, you heard yesterday Mike talk about the acquisition that they did with DX and the browser company. Our platform at Datasite helps to facilitate those M&A transaction deals. I'll tell you just a quick story. The way that data rooms used to work back in the day was you had a buyer and a seller of a company. And what Datasite offered was a secure building that you would go into. So the buyers would have their own quarters, the sellers would have their own quarters. There would be meeting rooms in the middle where you met. And no kidding you guys, they would bring in boxes of banker boxes with files and folders. And then one day someone at Datasite said, this is gonna be on the internet. And so we invented the virtual data room. And now any big transaction that you read about in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Financial Times, odds are it was done on our platform. So that's just a little bit about myself and a little bit about Datasite. And so switching gears a little bit, today we are going to talk about how we turn strategy into measurable impact by building out a system of work with Atlassian Strategy Collection. This is a story about visibility, speed, culture, and how we gave our leaders this factory floor view so that they can see in an instance what's going on end to end within our environment. And we coined this term that seems to be pretty catchy here at this event, which is the work is the report. We have built this culture and this mind shift where instead of building reports out, the work is just the report. And this has enabled our teams to execute faster. Question for you guys. How many of you have one place where you can see everything that all your teams are working on? Show of hands. We've got 2 out of the whole crowd. I think a year ago, this time, I would have been in the group of folks who cannot raise their hands and say, we were not sure where everything was at along the continuum of the process development cycle. Most organizations, they just don't have this single comprehensive view. We didn't, but we knew that what we had done previously, we would not be able to continue to do because we just could not scale. And we need to be able to scale because we're very acquisitive. We bought 6 companies in the last 2 years. We needed a way to see things from an end-to-end perspective. Okay, one quick follow-up question for you guys is, can your executives self-serve on that status in under 60 seconds? In other words, if they want to know where project X is or initiative Y, can they go out and find it? Raise your hand if your executives can do that. Got one out of the whole group. Yeah, it's a tough code to crack, and it's something that we've been working on for the last 6 months with Atlassian, in particular Atlassian Advisory Services, and we put a lot of miles behind us to get to a point where our executives can, in fact, self-serve and pull information because they're getting asked by their boss, who's getting asked by their boss, and we have to be able to be accountable for what we're working on and where it's at. So what we set out to do was to create this opportunity to do self-serve status. This was a standard that my chief product officer set forth for me to build out what he called a factory floor view, because at the time we just simply could not do it. And this is when we put the strategy collection to work, and in particular the Atlassian system of work, where we now have a workflow, y'all, where we can track things from idea to discovery to development to release, and then we monitor and measure where our OKRs at a certain point become KPIs, and we track that end to end in Atlassian. I kind of just set the stage there on context for what we're going to talk about. Then now is our outline. We're going to talk a little bit more about Datasite, the challenges and the aha moment that we had, the solution, which is the system of work with strategy collection, and then, of course, the impact. What were the outcomes? Because we've moved from more of like a feature factory, if you will, to more of like an outcome-based shop. And that's been transformative for us, our customers, and our business. And then lastly, we'll talk about vision and lesson learned. Okay, so again, high level, Datasite powers mergers and acquisitions. Solution is a secure platform for bankers, lawyers, and other professionals to trade and share highly confidential information. So the way that it might work is you have company A that wants to buy company B. Their lawyers and accountants will request documents from the seller, and then they'll exchange it in this secure cloud platform. And in an environment where precision and speed define outcomes, our operating system for strategy and execution had to match these high-stake environments that we're in. And that is the context for how Datasite works and how we had to marry up the system of work with our environment. So we were dealing with a host of problems. I'm willing to bet, based on the show of hands that we just saw, that you'll be able to relate with any number of the bullet points that I'm about to rattle off. We had no single source of truth on where things were at in the project pipeline. Plans lived in PowerPoints, they lived in Excel, they lived in sticky notes, and it was very difficult to understand where we were at and how we were tracking with projects. We had no real-time visibility. Updates lagged reality. We were managing lagging indicators and not work in flight, unfortunately. It made it really tough to make decisions quickly enough. Meeting volume ballooned to compensate for decision making that was slow, and it just created a lot of friction and a lot of churn in the environment. We, for example, with our OKRs for our team, we had over 200 OKRs at the time, which is just very unwieldy. And we just didn't know that because you can't manage what you can't measure. And we cannot measure the OKRs out of PowerPoints and Excel. It just was literally impossible. Those tools aren't designed for that kind of work. So we had to find a solution with the system of work. And this is when we created the factory floor view that my boss asked for. And so he said, I need the factory floor view, not a summary, not a deck, but a live view of strategy to work across teams. That clarity set the bar. We needed a single pane of glass where the truth to work lives. And so I worked with Atlassian on a proposal to provide this single view, and we found the answer together. And as a footnote, we hired Atlassian Advisory Services right out of the gate. I was the first one to raise my hand and say, hey, I need adult supervision. Hey, I need expertise here. And it was one of the best things that we did. The software is intuitive, but whenever you have advisors like the advisors at Atlassian, where the knowledge runs deep and wide, you'll get the most out of your experience is what we found. So here is the system of work collection. Strategy and execution now live in one flow. The system connects goals, portfolios, prioritization, intake, discovery, delivery, management, all in one place. And you've seen the spectrum of tools. And it's interesting to see how they all couple together. So for example, our heads-up display is Jira Product Discovery, and each idea represents an initiative. From there, you can branch out to the entire ecosystem. If my boss says, JR, why are you guys investing in this initiative? I literally can scan down the line and look and see it connects to this OKR. I'm one click away from then being able to go into the strategy and understand how that ties into the strategy. I can then drill back down all the way to the ticket level, and usually within the tickets now, it's not just a ticket, we also have Loom. And there's all these tools that couple together in a purpose-built manner that create this force multiplier effect whenever you have them implemented. And please keep in mind, we began this journey only 6 months ago. And we were able to get from here to there in 6 months and during the middle of like a very, very busy time at Datasite. And that's been transformative for us. And so we shifted from reporting about work to working on the report. Teams capture demand and discovery. They prioritize in the open and execute where leaders can see progress and blockers in real time. I, at first, thought it was gonna be a challenge to get executives into Rovo to be able to get this real-time updates, but now they're obsessed with it. I think they're a little hooked on it. You know, where you hear leaders talk about one of the first things that they do in the morning is look at dashboards. I think we're already getting to a point where one of the first things they do now is look at Rovo and talk with Rovo and see how things are going because of the tooling that we're using, such as Atlassian projects. If you're not using it, check it out. It's like a real-time feed of everything that's happening, and Rovo indexes it. And you can almost have like a conversation with Rovo on how things are going. Before we had this in place, folks at the C-level were having to chase people all around. Now they can just kind of self-serve. In fact, this was the response that I got when I did the first demo. And that's when I knew I was onto something. There were also some expletives that were used in a really good way, and you really don't hear those a lot at Datasite. That's when you know you're cooking up something pretty good. Shut up and take my money. So I've talked about the work as a report, and I want to just expand on that a little bit. You should not have to build a report to explain where you're at in your work. You should be able to play a Rovo playback or a playbook. Like, I literally have scripts now that I've saved, like prompts, and it will give me an output. Or there should be a loom in the Jira ticket or the goals that shows where things are at. The analogy that I use is, let's say you hired a contractor to refinish your basement. You don't show up and they're like having a PowerPoint that said, I just finished hanging the sheetrock. No, you just walk in and you can see the sheetrock or the wall painted. I think that with the way that the Atlassian ecosystem is set up, you just show the work and that is the status. It's the ground truth. I think that when status reports are built, they are like the game of telephone where things get kind of scrambled a little bit. Whereas in Atlassian, you get to see the ground truth. It is what it is. And you shouldn't have to make a deck. In fact, we're already getting to a point where we have our data in such specific places that are indexable by Rovo that they're building the report, and we're only one step away from eventually having an avatar. So that if you want to run a report, you push the button, it runs an agent, and you end up with a Loom video as your output. That's where you want to be, I think. So I've talked about our system of work at a high level. Let's double click into this and see how it works. So we actually branded this, y'all. We call it the Idea to Impact Framework. And it's really caught on. When we first started building this out, people were like, oh, there's too much change in the system already. There's change fatigue. What's the change management going to be like? We've been blown away because people are looking for structure and just the right amount of structure and the right amount of balance. And we feel like we really hit the sweet spot with the system of work in this regard. So let me start with the 10,000 foot view. It begins where it should. I have an idea. And then we bring those ideas into JPD. We rank them. From there, we prioritize them. If you haven't had a chance to look at JPD, go check it out. It has a lot of frameworks to help you prioritize, like RICE, Moscow. You measure impact and what it would take to get it done, the engineering effort, and so forth. From there, we're able to prioritize ideas and then go into delivery. So this is the very high-level workflow. And then you can see it branches out to our goals. So not only are we doing like the RICE or the Moscow framework, but we're able to also bounce that against our goals because our goals are right in line with the ideas that are getting ranked. And also, it's worth noting, y'all, we used to do quarterly planning. And you know what? You get what you ask for. You get quarterly speed throughput. Now, with this framework, we are moving towards, and in some cases are already on, a continuous planning cycle where we, instead of doing that quarterly planning meeting, we're doing a weekly planning meeting. And it has been a game changer for us because the business is so fluid, because we do so many acquisitions, and because of this this word with two letters, AI. I just don't know how we could live in the age of AI at Datasite doing quarterly planning. Things are just changing too quickly, and we need to be able to be very fluid. And this approach has helped us to get to a weekly cadence instead of a quarterly cadence. And folks seem to like it a lot better because it meshes up with reality. Then ultimately, there's a strategic review. So we have value streams at the highest level. That's how we're organized. And then we have teams below that. And so above that, then we have leadership above the value streams. And on a weekly basis, we're all able to check all these boxes to make sure that they're meeting the strategic requirements. And then we have a monthly review called the MBR, where we run a report out of Atlassian projects, and then Atlassian goals, and then we essentially have all the value stream leaders report on it. So let's talk about visibility and alignment in the system of work. First, strategy. We use Loom and Confluence. We also use whiteboards and agents to define focus areas and goals. We then execute across those focus areas. And then that way, corporate, product, and engineering enter their objectives and their KRs. This way we have clear ownership. We have one language of outcomes. Then next, we have two on-ramps, Jira Service Management on broad idea intake from places like Salesforce and in-app. So we get ideas from customers, our sales team, my boss when he's golfing, and he'll come up with an idea, and we have to have a place to centralize all of that. And this is essentially showing that workflow. From there, robo agents and humans triage, score, and rank ideas against the focus and goal criteria. Approved ideas move forward, and then the rest live in JPD backlog with full context. We've actually built in automation and templating into our JPD so that if you want to move along the continuum, the first thing you have to do is fill out that template that's directly in the JPD initiative, and then it goes to the next step and the next step and the next step. Then that way, if someone says, why did you guys make this decision? We've got the whole lineage right there in one place. And so work then gets assigned to the right work streams, delivered, and are continuously monitored. So let's take a look at our chart over here on the left. So people will pitch ideas in Loom. They'll post them in Confluence. They'll identify strategic priorities and OKRs. And then we bounce that against what's in focus, which is OKRs. And we look for cross-functional opportunities. Then we move to goals and JPD and then Jira. And then everything's tracked end to end. We have a paper trail. And then we have analytics set up with Atlassian Analytics to track progress and outcomes. So to summarize, we have one path in, one language of work. If it's not in the system, it doesn't exist. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you found out there's projects underway and you're like, who said to do that? And so we're washing that all out of the system, and we're able to monitor this on a weekly basis. And it's not expensive. It's just a handful of folks on this call every week, and the decisions that get made get fanned out through Loom. And then, yeah, here's the analytics part. This is a section where we're really starting to sharpen our pencil a lot, is with the analytics. So just to reiterate and to take a step back, because I know I just covered a lot of ground, y'all. This is what we're calling the idea to impact framework. I'm thinking about getting in touch with our legal counsel and getting the little circle R at the end of it, and maybe, you know, working with Laura and Team Katie to write a little book or something together and go viral on New York Times. So first thing you do is you come up with the ideas and you receive feedback. And then if the ideas pass muster, then they go into discovery. And this is really important for us because we also have a practice in place where up to 60% of our ideas just never make it past this. And we feel like that's a good thing. We want a very Darwinistic approach to deciding what makes it into step 2, because you invest some of your best and brightest minds into discovery, then it goes to development, then it's done, then we monitor and measure. And just because you make it to 5 doesn't mean you're done. You might come back to step 2 because you found out that something didn't work in step 5, and you have to kind of go back through the loop again. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this rather quickly. This is our one single view, essentially. We're in JPD, and you can see all the different columns that map up to the work that's being done that becomes a report. And so you can see the name of the initiative, you can see the status, you can see who's assigned to the initiative, you can see the status, whether it's in development, whether it's in discovery, and so forth. And the great thing about JPD is how extensive it is. You can add almost any column that you want, and you can also calculate metrics in there. You can see here where when you click the little twisty, you get more information. And then see on the right-hand side, you can do comments, you can have insights, you can show the team that's working on it. There's where I was just talking about with the Rice measurement, the Moscow measurement. I mean, whoever thought of this at Atlassian, I feel like they must have done a deal with the devil, because everything is just included there all in one place to be able to get to. It works out great. I mean, I'm on any number of status calls and I get asked a question and they think they're gonna stump me, and I'm like, click, click, click. And they're like, can I have a license? We have 100 licenses, and we have 99% adoption on this right now. We've already doubled our license, and I think we'll have to do it again, which is a good thing, because people need to know this stuff. And we're able to permission also, y'all, in JPD, like some folks can read, some folks can write, then it's more granular below there. So definitely worth checking out. And then here's one of our agents that we use to dedupe all the wonderful ideas that come in from all the wonderful people. We are trying to use human in the loop, and like Mike said yesterday, AI is our teamwork partner. This is a quote from my boss, brilliant guy, great to work for. If you're listening, Doug, really enjoy it. It's so good. Atlassian's strategy and teamwork collections plus Rovo provide a clear, flat factory floor view for our leaders in a single hub for teams to collaborate. And as I mentioned, it's basically been pretty transformative for us, and we feel like we're picking up momentum every day with it. So we're on the home stretch here. Here are some numbers. Again, wanted to bring it back to the impacts. Again, we're becoming more and more of an outcome-oriented shop. So we like tracking measurements like this, and Cash recommended it, so I thought it would be a great idea. Why not? So meeting efficiency. Here's where we're talking about our OKR, MBR monthly review that we have. Remember I mentioned that, how we're doing weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual. We actually have like this whole flow. In this OKR, MBR meeting, we used to have 125 people. Like, that's so many people in teams that you have to scroll through like 6 times. And we said, nope, we're gonna give it a haircut. We're gonna have 12 people. We're gonna read right out of Atlassian. We are going to record it in Loom, where they're gonna run the recap through Rovo and condense it down to a 15-minute reel or presentation through Loom, and have our head of product read it. And if he's too busy, eventually, hopefully, Loom will have avatars, and the avatar will just do the report. So quick napkin math here that we'll borrow for the next bullet point too is you take 125 people times $80 an hour per person. You can do the math and cost savings there alone just for one meeting. Speaking of cost savings, we're using Loom. I don't know if you've tried Loom. If you haven't, you got to give it a go. For us, it went viral within our platform. We've saved over 4,000 meetings in about 5 months. That comes out to be $500,000. We've realized quite the ROI from our Loom investment, and our adoption has just kind of gone like parabolic. If you want to implement Loom in your shop, pick up a book called Crossing the Chasm and read it. Don't question it, just follow it, it'll work. It does amazing. Okay, I'll keep trucking. Strategic clarity. Again, as I mentioned, we had 216 OKRs. We rationalized that down to 3 objectives and 12 KRs, a lot easier to manage. Our executives see goal to work traceability in seconds, like I mentioned. For adoption velocity, JPD went viral. I just mentioned that. We're almost out of licenses again. We have analytics running on that. We had 4,000 page views last month with less than 100 people. And yeah, like I mentioned, we just had to double our licenses. We're making better decisions. Executives self-serve with a factory floor view and drill into live work. AI assists with fact-checking during reviews. So during our MBR review, our execs look up stuff in Rovo. So they might have a question, but instead of interrupting the meeting, they just have a conversation with Rovo and they get the answers that they need, so that when they do raise their hand, they have a lot more context and we're able to move things forward more quickly. Because I don't know what it's like where you work, but it's hard to get some folks' time, and you want to make the most of it when you get them on the phone. We're focused on building and innovating, not reporting. So bringing it home, our vision is deeper strategy collection rollout. We want to get more so into focus. And just a quick aside there, if you want to get strategy up and running in your shop, you might not be able to go straight to strategy. The way that we did it was more of a bottoms-up approach, where we started with focus and OKRs and this framework that I'm talking about, and then bubbled that up to the C-suite to get more of the strategy rounded out. We had to get a proven track record. Release management and cross-team visibility on the same system. That's another thing we're working out in tandem with the talent app. We want to get way better at release management, so that when something is an idea like that far back in the framework that I showed you guys, our product marketing team already knows about it and can help us craft a plan so that we can meet in the middle, and when we release something, it's that much better. So we're getting there. It's only been 6 months, but people see it working. They see that it's a better way, and it's additive without a lot of overhead. And I'm on a call almost every day acting as like a consultant for people that come to me and say, it hurts right here. Can you guys help with that? And then Rovo, that could be a whole presentation unto itself on how we're using it to tie all of the teamwork graph together. And we're using things like deep research and agents quite frequently now. Lessons learned: don't digitize chaos, standardize goals, and intake first, then automate. That goes back to the 216 OKRs we had. First of all, we had to put out a call to get all the OKRs. We had to read every page of every PowerPoint. Some of the PowerPoints, I kid you not, were 80 pages long. We did not just upload that into the system because that's like garbage in, garbage out. You have to methodically kind of go through that and parse it out and be smart about what you put in and how you put it in, because ultimately you want the one path, one language of work. There are fewer statuses and clearer roll-ups. You want to show proofs of concept early. That's with the framework and then the work itself, because I know who's who in the zoo in my company. And so I hand selected people to be in the innovators and the early adopters and to do demos, because I knew that they were influencers and that they would have kind of like a ripple effect or like a halo effect on the rest of the company, and it's worked. And then last but not least, the work is a report, focus on outcomes, not reporting. Reporting is so 2024. And just want to say, wherever you're at on your journey, just kind of put a game plan together, be willing to pivot and be flexible, and get the system of work in place. You'll be glad you did. So that's my book report. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate it.